Hello, everyone, again. So nice to have you back with us. My name is Kenneth, and on behalf of Invest Hong Kong and Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival, we are so very honored here today to have the wonderful Nathan, Jazmine, and Amanda essentially talk about regeneration in design. I'm not going to spoil it for you all. You guys are going to learn so much, and I hope at the end of this panel, you all think about how can I take what I've just heard and make a positive impact to my life and those of my family and my team. On that note, Nathan, I'm going to hand this beautiful topic over to you, and thank you so much again for doing this today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kenneth, and for inviting us to speak about one of our favorite topics, if not maybe our favorite topic, which is regeneration. But more specifically, we wanted to talk about moving from human-centered design to regenerative design, specifically because human-centered design has been one of the largest topics and design approaches in business. And we want to talk about how moving to regeneration can help steward people and planet. So I will give a little bit of background, and then I will hand it over to my amazing colleagues, Jazmine and Amanda, who you will meet momentarily. But let me set the stage about why we're here today. So traditionally, when we talk about the integration of human and planet, we've started from a history of sustainability. And sustainability was a great movement for a long time to really start thinking about the human impacts on the planet. However, today, sustainability may not actually meet what we need to move forward. So regeneration was born out of the evolving of sustainability. And so sustainability starts from the level of how do we minimize negative impacts to our societies and our environments where we stay below a certain threshold where we can sustain forever. And so some of this is set up in a way where we're actually trying to just minimize our negativity so that we can sustain. And instead, regeneration asks the question and aims to maximize the actual potential of individuals in a living system. This is inspired from natural ecosystems. It's the way nature works. If you look at ecosystems, all of the individuals and the living beings within those ecosystems work together to maximize the overall health of that. So when I say system, in regeneration, you can define what system that you're working on. So it could be the whole biosphere, the whole planet, or it could be a system, let's say, of your business. And once you define the system, you can define all of the networks and the relationships between different living beings within that system. So human-centered design to regenerative design focuses on more of a bit of the organizational level of regeneration and how that scales up to planet. So human-centered design, just to define it, is a design approach to problem solving that develops solutions based on the human perspective across all steps of the problem solving process. This approach is only designed, however, to satisfy present-day human needs rather than focusing on the future potential of the living systems that humans live within. So satisfying singular needs of a human does not necessarily account for the fact that human health is tied to the health of the whole system. And of course, as humans, we live inside of larger systems, which in this case, we are going to talk about the biosphere and all other natural systems that we live inside in. So the global challenges we face today are not only technical, they are also deeply psychological, where systemic solutions require the development of the self and our values rather than just tools to fix the problems. So regeneration asks the question, instead of solving problems, how can we instead design for potential? And so just to give a quick primer on the definition of regenerative design, here we're going to define regenerative design as an approach that designs for the potential of a whole system and the relationships of the living beings within that system, again, living beings, the living beings in a natural ecosystem or living beings within your organizations or your businesses. And in this way, you can design for uncertainty and adaptation, something that we'll be facing more of in the future. And so this is a design solution that really speaks to being adaptive. And as things change in the world, how can you change with them? And so just to give one concrete example, a regenerative business first focuses on the development of whole human beings. These are design techniques to help individuals and the teams they work within to not only discover their passions, but also a collective vocation they can work towards. And once you begin to develop human capacity, and once people are driven by passion, then it transforms the layer of management. So soon management will not be about necessarily disciplining the workforce and offering incentives, but instead in helping people to channel their potential as self-managing units. And so from here, you can begin to see some of the potential benefits that regenerative design approaches bring once everyone in your organization is working for something collective. So that's a bit of the stage, and I'm going to begin to now have a chat with my great friends and colleagues who are brilliant regenerative systems designers and consultants that come from slightly different backgrounds and angles, but all working again towards the same goals. So first, I wanted to ask a couple questions to Jazmine Cable. She's the community manager at the Buckminster Fuller Institute and an impact consultant at the Lift Economy. And so with that, hello, Jazmine. Good to see you here. Awesome. So the first question I wanted to ask is, from your journey from corporate business to regenerative organizations, you have a wide breadth of knowledge and experience. So how do you see regenerative approaches being applied to business now?
Yeah, so great question. So when thinking about regenerative approaches in business, I think there are many opportunities to apply this approach, especially when it comes to people, products, and strategy. And I would even possibly argue that it's a necessity for businesses to approach this in this day and age. And so I say that because of two things. One, of course, because of the current climate, it has required businesses to be more resilient than they ever imagined. And so being flexible and being adaptable to immediately change their environment is a big practice of regeneration. And two, thinking about the ecosystems or the industries that businesses are operating in and thinking about scale and the desire to scale becomes even more essential for businesses to consider the resources they are using. And by resources, of course, that's the inputs, the supplies, the natural materials, but that also considers the people that they are working with and working for and their time, how efficiently and how effectively they spend it. And also as they think about, consuming more and doing more in a finite environment. And so I'm excited for this conscious integration of regenerative practices because it really allows us to reconsider perspectives of separation, like the common saying, it's just business, as if our actions in the marketplace are separate from our actions of the rest of the world and our lives, which have been proven to be untrue, especially in light of COVID. And so this takes us to a perspective of interdependence, the idea that we are all connected and that our systems are interrelated and should possibly act as such. And then also as we learn that these silos we've been operating in may actually have just been imaginary. And so one key approach is to become a part of the circular economy. This is a big entry point for regeneration and is widely applicable to businesses. It challenges the current business processes of take, make, waste, which is the extraction of resources, making a product, and then discarding it without considering its end of life. And so the circular economy changes those steps to designing out waste, keeping products in use, which can be done by simply incorporating things like modular design or subscription services, and then regenerating the natural environment. And so this approach has been proven to be good for business and the environment, as the Ellen MacArthur Foundation finds that in China alone, changing the economy and business practices from linear to circular would result in $70 trillion savings for businesses and households by 2040.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing opening and approach to really thinking through the whole life cycle of a business and product development. And I think that's what's so amazing about Regeneration. It really is an integrative approach that can bring together many different components into one vision. And the second thing I wanted to ask is what's also amazing about the approach is starting with the living beings inside of them and their relationships. So taking from nature, for example, we know the more diverse an ecosystem is, the healthier it is, the more types of species and things like that. And so my question is, how do we apply this diversity into businesses and organizations to breed innovation and diversity in perspectives and things beyond that?
So I say, starting with diversity in both people and perspective is crucially important, because without it, we see, especially in nature, things don't live and they don't survive, or at the very least, it makes it difficult to do so, and minimizes the chances of long-term success. And so I would say that businesses, they actually kind of already understand this. They understand this in the sense of, diversifying their product offerings, diversifying things such as their brands. But I guess I could pose a challenge of taking this a step forward and applying this to other aspects of your organization, your entire organization, and your people. And especially towards practices and perspectives. So for example, I had the experience of working with the business that had a very low turnover rate of employees. I think the average rate was maybe 10 years. And so they were very proud of this. They were proud of the retention rate and how people were loyal, which is great. You do want a group of people who you can rely on. However, the business started to go down. They started to lose sales, performance started to go. However, they still have this very loyal group of people. And so this really made me bring in a question, were these people loyal or were they comfortable? Were they actively committed to the success and growth of the organization, or were they, simply comfortable? I think the point is to bring into question the importance of diversity in the sense of the people you work with and their perspectives. So I'm definitely not saying, there's anything wrong with having loyal people. There's nothing wrong with retention. And I'm not saying you should hire outward, but, think about the culture you are breeding within your organization and how that culture breeds innovation. Consumers relate more to people who look like them. So that's another aspect. And, having diversity brings in the resilience of your people, your company, and overall everyone else as a whole.
Awesome. I love that. And thank you for really focusing in on understanding the, really culturally how people move together, especially in organizations, to bring about, that impact. So thank you so much, Jazmine. That was great insight and a really good primer to move on to my other good friend and colleague, Amanda Ravenhill, one of the premier systems thinkers and this overall amazing person of the world. And she has just an amazing background, is, doing a lot of different things in a lot of different systems. She was the co-founder of Project Drawdown, which is the first and potentially only book of the solutions to solving global warming and drawing down carbon dioxide. And from there, she became the executive director of the Buckminster Fuller Institute, and they're doing a lot of different projects and a lot of different initiatives around regeneration that you'll hear about in a second. So Amanda, welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and hello, Hong Kong.
Yeah, so just to jump right in, being the co-founder of Project Drawdown, can you briefly speak about how and why it started, and then just maybe give us a little bit of lead into how you became the executive director of the Buckminster Fuller Institute?
Of course. Yeah. So Project Drawdown was started in 2013. And at the time, I had been working in climate change for almost 10 years. And no one told me that it was possible to even solve it. I was constantly looking out to see, how are we going to get there? What is kind of the best case scenario? What's the best possible future for our climate? And I found some studies around energy. We need to change our energy infrastructure, and then some claims around soil and the potential to put carbon. There's an extra trillion tons, so it's 1,000 gigatons, 1 trillion tons of CO2 in the atmosphere that we need to draw back down again. And I saw a bunch of claims about that, and a bunch of stuff about energy, and other stuff about family planning, and other stuff about recycling, but none of it was comparable. And so I got together with this huge coalition that we built of researchers around the world to see what is the most comprehensive plan. How do we actually get to this point of drawdown? And we define drawdown as the point when the concentrations of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere begin to decline again. So we've been going up and up every year. The Earth kind of breathes in CO2 and exhales CO2 with the beautiful living system that is this planet. But we've been steadily going up and up. And with that warming, with that melting permafrost, with that the Amazon is drying up, a lot of these kind of tipping points we're right on the edge of potentially losing entire ecosystems. And with that, sea level rise and so much ecological destruction. And so much of the communication around climate has been about the future that we don't want. So we got together with Drawdown and we put together this huge analysis. You can read it in the book and also at drawdown.org to see it is possible. We can reverse global warming. We can achieve drawdown. We can get to global cooling within our lifetimes. Our latest analysis shows that we can get to drawdown by 2043. Takes about 10 years for temperatures to come back down again. So we'll peak, according to this analysis, and a lot of assumptions, obviously, that we put into it. This analysis says that we'll find global cooling, so we'll reverse the warming in 2053, and that will peak at 1.526 degrees above pre-industrial levels. So we can avoid ecological collapse if we take the will and do everything that we can. We have the technology. It's really just about passion and will, and all of us doing everything we can, because it is so touch and go. So that's Drawdown. And then 3 years ago, I moved over to the Buckminster Fuller Institute to really work on the projects on the ground who are implementing these solutions, accelerating them, and empowering leaders like all of you who are watching to learn about systems and learn about regenerative design, learn how to be inspired by nature and work and cooperate with nature so that we can balance our ecosystems and take care of ourselves. So I invite you all to join us at BFI. We have a great membership program and a great online course called Space Camp, where you can learn how to be astronauts on Spaceship Earth that Jazmine and I and our colleague Faith all run together.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's been amazing to watch the journey of Project Drawdown personally, because I think, as you nicely alluded to, the problems can seem so big and there could seem like there's so many. And, we need to definitely work towards actually creating frameworks where people with businesses can really look at their business through the lens of these solutions, because I think what Project Drawdown nicely showed was that you don't have to necessarily be in green technology or even something where you would think is environmental to help this cause. And famously, I think of the top 10 solutions, one of them being educating women, another one being family planning. So really thinking in a systems level of how everything is connected. And so what's amazing, as you said, is that we have the technology, which is great, but we really need to work on our collective will to get there. And I think that's what is so amazing about the Buckminster Fuller Institute. And the other thing I think that's really amazing about what the Buckminster Fuller Institute is doing is it's creating those frameworks where existing businesses like the ones here at Start Me Up, HK, can use these frameworks to then plant their businesses inside of Regeneration. So Amanda, I just wanted you to speak through, I know you are working on several things there. I know there's a Design Science Studio, Regenerosity, and Space Camp. And I'd love you to just lead us through briefly each one, why that initiative and how you designed it, and I guess maybe how people watching here can get involved.
Yeah. So our mission is threefold. We educate, we instigate, and we accelerate. And so Trim Tab Space Camp is this opportunity for all of us to come together, all of us who are kind of, more cross-discipline types, like Buckminster Fuller, who was, the inventor of this geodesic dome behind me. He was a polymath. So he kind of was in multiple forms of disciplines, and he went deep on all of them. And I think there's an attraction of those of us who understand and are compelled by both the arts and the sciences and the design and kind of see things more comprehensively to Buckminster Fuller's work. And so Space Camp is about bringing together these cross-discipline people like you who are watching to explore different systems frameworks for understanding the world, for going through different futurism processes like world building, for looking at nature-inspired design like permaculture, and really learning together and forming a community of like-minded people that you can learn with, but then also we like to instigate and get people to work together on projects and find your community, find your global tribe of other people who really want to use this opportunity that we have, this narrowing window of opportunity that we have to save our living planet. It is so touch and go, as I said earlier. We have several feet of sea level rise already baked into the system. That's if we do everything really well, and everything else just kind of builds from there. So inviting people into Trim Tab Space Camp and to join us. We have scholarships available for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And we're really looking to have a global community. So I really would encourage everyone to invite your friends from all over the world to join us. It's a beautiful planetary community of world changers. So that's Space Camp. The second project that I'll talk about is Regenerosity, created with Lush Cosmetics and the UN Development Program's Equator Prize. And collectively between the three organizations, we've had prize programs that have run for the last decade. And we've done all of this amazing vetting, calling in projects and judging and seeing who are the best examples of regenerative projects all over the world. And now we're taking that pool of projects and we're accelerating them. And we're also learning with them. They're part of our education programs, and it's, they're part of the global community. But what we're really, focused on there is moving $10 billion in the next 10 years to show that the Sustainable Development Goals can be implemented regeneratively. And in doing so, we can meet all the goals more fully without kind of pushing harm around the system. So sometimes the best intentions end up just creating harm because we're not looking at the full system. I think that's one of my favorite ways to think about regeneration is you're creating healing in every step. So with your employees, you're enabling them to grow in their capacity. If you're sourcing products, you're making sure that those products are cleaning the air and the water and the soil that they're a part of. You're always healing with every step, and healing in a way that leaves more healing behind it. So it's healing that begets more healing, that begets more healing. So that's what these projects are doing with Regenerosity. We're so honored to be able to support them and to funnel philanthropy, to encourage large foundations around the world to spend down while we still have the time to do something about our ecological crisis. And then the third project is the Design Science Studio. We're imagining into this design science decade that we're in right now. And having artists visualize, it's so important that we know that we have positive visions of the future that we can all walk towards. And so it's an honor to work with artists from all over the world who are developing mixed media and podcasts and graphic design and all sorts of ways to imagine what this 10 years of transformation, which we're calling the Design Science Decade, will look and feel like. So please join us, become a member of BFI. Again, we have scholarships available. We'd love to have you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think that last piece is also so important and sometimes isn't brought into the discussion of sustainability as much, but it's really important for designers to build even a picture of what to go towards, and if we don't have that, it's hard to design for the future. And that's really where artists are so crucial to come in. And it's interesting.
Imagination drives innovation. And think about imagination, it has the word image in it, right? So we have to be able to see what the image is of this regenerative future in order for us to drive innovation and then make that future come true.
Exactly. And I think for me, a great way to think about it is a lot of technological inventions were inspired by science fiction movies. And so it was really artists that were trying to think above and beyond, and to where scientists then actually had a goal to design too. And that feedback is really powerful. And the final thing I'll say about regeneration and sustainability is that it used to be thought of as kind of a cost to businesses, and how businesses had to change their practices and not and take a hit to their bottom line and their revenue. But now all the market research and trends are showing that younger generations are desire for businesses to move in this direction, and now it's being seen as an economic incentive. And that to be a business for the future, you will have to actually integrate these things. So,
Jazmine said it's not even an incentive; it's a necessity.
Yes,
we either do this or you can't do anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I say for all three of us, that's probably been one of the craziest evolutions to watch ever since we got into this space, is the fact that it is now becoming a necessary part. And it's such a new thing, I'd say, across the world, that these courses and these frameworks are so critical to understand how we move into that space. So, I wanted to ask if either of you had any parting thoughts, and then from there we can wrap it. But Jazmine, I didn't know if you wanted to say a closing word, and then Amanda, we can go on to you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just really, challenging ourselves to think bigger and about how we can consciously incorporate these practices into our businesses. And I say consciously because, in a sense, it's already kind of passively happening, whether we like it or not, in the sense of, everything is interdependent. But how can we do this in an active and proactive manner, to where we regenerate ourselves and the environment?
Amanda, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've hit on it a couple times, but I cannot stress enough how urgent these times are. It's been urgent for probably 50 years now. Buckminster Fuller said that every action affirmatively or negatively tips the scales. Things are so touch and go. And just invite everyone to call on your will and your passion. It's up to us. It's up to us who have grown up into a world of less bias and more understanding. And with the technology, we finally are able to do all the things that we've been wanting to do in terms of taking care of everyone at a higher standard of living than we've ever known. Consuming in a way that can be regenerative. You know, you can have products that are actually healing and providing more services to the ecosystem than they are taking away. And it really comes down to our will and fighting apathy. There's definitely a tendency to feel overwhelmed. You know, it's like this huge, huge thing to hold, this transformation that we're in. But yeah, just be wary of apathy and yeah, hold on to each other. And together we got this. Would love, again, for you all to join us. You can go to BFI, Buckminster Fuller Institute, bfi.org/membership to join us. And yeah, look forward to having you as part of our community.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to both of you for sharing your thoughts. It's been always a pleasure, and to Kenneth for inviting us here. And we hope to see all of you at some point soon.
That definitely needs to be transcribed. I was so busy taking notes. I'm like, someone needs to share this, right? But I mean, I cannot thank you guys enough. I mean, I think there is a message of hope and optimism embedded in what you described that really draws strength from the fact that this is a youth leadership summit. We want to leave a better world for the next generation, and we need them to also step up. And let's empower them to step up by having access to all the amazing research and initiatives by BFI and all the amazing partners that we all work with. So on that note, thank you so much. And I hope to continue working with you. And like you say, feel the love inside each and every one of us and create a better world. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.